Man cannot be freed if he does not know that he is subject to necessity, because his freedom is always won in his never wholly successful attempts to liberate himself from necessity. To be free in an age like ours, one must be in a position of authority. That in itself would be enough to make me ambitious. For the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them. We have almost succeeded in leveling all human activities to the common denominator of securing the necessities of life and providing for their abundance. Few girls are as well shaped as a good horse. The third world is not a reality, but an ideology. Poets are the only people to whom love is not only a crucial, but an indispensable experience, which entitles them to mistake it for a universal one. The more dubious and uncertain an instrument violence has become in international relations, the more it has gained in reputation and appeal in domestic affairs, specifically in the matter of revolution. Economic growth may one day turn out to be a curse rather than a good, and under no conditions can it either lead into freedom or constitute a proof for its existence. The chief qualification of a mass leader has become unending infallibility. He can never admit an error. These are the 50s you know, the disgusting, posturing 50s. By its very nature, the beautiful is isolated from everything else. From beauty, no road leads to reality. War has become a luxury that only small nations can afford. It is my contention that civil disobediences are nothing but the latest form of voluntary association, and that they are thus quite in tune with the oldest traditions of the country. Our tradition of political thought had its definite beginning in the teachings of Plato and Aristotle. I believe it came to a no less definite end in the theories of Karl Marx. A king without power is an absurdity. It is only when the people become ignorant and corrupt, when they degenerate into a populace, that they are incapable of exercising their sovereignty. The right of self-defense never ceases. It is among the most sacred and alike necessary to nations and to individuals, and whether the attack be made by Spain herself or by those who abuse her power, its obligation is not the less strong. The best form of government is that which is most likely to prevent the greatest sum of evil. A little flattery will support a man through great fatigue. National honor is the national property of the highest value. Our country may be likened to a new house. We lack many things, but we possess the most precious of all liberty. If we look to the history of other nations, ancient or modern, we find no example of a growth so rapid, so gigantic, of a people so prosperous and happy. The public lands are a public stock, which ought to be disposed of to the best advantage for the nation. In the wars of the European powers in matters relating to themselves, we have never taken any part. Not does it comport with our policy so ado. It is only when our rights are invaded or seriously menaced that we resent injuries or make preparation for our defense. It is the knowledge that all men have weaknesses and that many have vices that makes government necessary. By the last returns to the Department of War, the militia force of the several states may be estimated at 800,000 men, infantry, artillery, and cavalry. I have great satisfaction in stating that our relations with France, Russia, and other powers continue on the most friendly basis. Never did a government commence under auspices so favorable, nor ever was success so complete. By these purchases, the Indian title, with moderate reservations, has been extinguished to the whole of the land within the limits of the state of Ohio, and to a part of that in the Michigan Territory and of the state of Indiana. It was by one union that we achieved our independence and liberties, and by it alone can they be maintained. The Civil War, which has so long prevailed between Spain and the provinces in South America, still continues, without any prospect of its speedy termination. Preparation for war is a constant stimulus to suspicion and ill will. Our relations with the other powers of Europe have experienced no essential change since the last session. The principles and passions of men are always the same and lead to the same result, varying only according to the circumstances in which they are placed. To impose taxes when the public exigencies require them is an obligation of the most sacred character, especially with a free people. At no period of our political existence had we so much cause to felicitate ourselves at the prosperous and happy condition of our country. The payments which have been made into the Treasury show the very productive state of the public revenue. From several of the Indian tribes inhabiting the country bordering on Lake Erie, purchases have been made of lands on conditions very favorable to the United States and, as it is presumed, not less so to the tribes themselves. The great increase of our population throughout the Union will alone produce an important effect, and in no quarter will it be so sensibly felt as in those in contemplation. If I venture into the water in a bikini, the sight of my melanin-deficient Michigan belly might attract beluga whales. Sure, I could secretly live among them and learn their ancient ways, but I couldn't keep that kind of ruse up forever. The attitude of, "I will never self-publish," coming from any author, indicates that they have never been in a position where it is their only option. Move over Helen of Troy. Jenny Trout is going to wage a war on good health and fit bodies. Movies like The Interview and Team America, World Police don't often show the realities of life in North Korea and the human rights violations perpetrated by the government there. Occasionally, the horrors of life in North Korea do show up in our American satire. Not one person would admit that they didn't want me to wear a bikini because of their aesthetic preference, a preference that is shaped by our cultural perceptions of what is and isn't beautiful. Our cultural discussion of fat bodies and how we clothe them has nothing to do with health concerns, the obesity epidemic, or the comfort of fat people. It has everything to do with what we expect from women, what we've been told by the fashion industry, and the value we place on perfect bodies. As white authors, bloggers, and readers, we must stop promoting diversity as a business opportunity or a chance to buy ally points with our disposable income. Every child deserves to see themselves in stories they can enjoy, but it isn't the place of white people to decide how and why those stories are created and marketed. If we truly seek diversity in fiction, we have to let the needs of others come before our need to define ourselves as social justice allies. Misconceptions about young adult fiction aren't new to fans of the genre. From being dismissed as mindless fluff for Twilight-obsessed tweens, to constant warnings that the genre is dying, kerfuffles between the media and readers occur with alarming regularity. Social media reactions to celebrity death have taken on a predictable pattern, an outpouring of shock with expressions of grief, followed by a ghoulish need to know all the details, to see the scene of the death and the family in mourning. then a post-mortem dissection of all the perceived flaws the celebrity had. It's far easier to brush off death if the death in question seems impossible or improbable as a personal threat. The belief that a person can and should only feel grief over one sad event at a time is a truly disturbing estimate of our emotional capacity. Writers generally get into writing because they want to write, not because they want to be independent publishers, and you can't really fault someone for saying, "What I'm doing right now works, so there's no reason to change it." Hugh Howley and Amanda Hocking come to mind immediately as authors who managed to build a successful following without the initial support of a large publisher. I'd bristle at the implication that only with the help of a Big Six editor does a novel lose its self-indulgent aspects. Before the advent of self-publishing, there were plenty of self-indulgent novels on the shelves. Because Melissa McCarthy actually is a fat woman, she isn't allowed to make brash statements about body acceptance. She has to apologize for her body. When Jennifer Lawrence says it's dumb to go hungry can make other people happy, she's saying it with the carefree attitude of a woman who probably will never have to make that choice to conform. The reason Jennifer Lawrence is allowed to be a body-positive role model to young girls and chubby women is because she is representative of conventional beauty. The message of body acceptance built on Jennifer Lawrence's soundbites only empowers those who are willing to ignore the fact that her statements reinforce our current cultural views rather than subverting them. The void, the concept of nothingness, is terrifying to most people on the planet, and I get anxiety attacks myself. I know the fear of that void. You have to learn to die before you die. You give up, surrender to the void, to nothingness. I just want to say, good night, sweet prince. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. I'm not really into religion. I do the same series of 5 exercises 21 times each day, an ancient Tibetan practice that stimulates your chakras. There is no answer. That's what Buddhism says. The void, oblivion, no answer. To be in that state is an enlightened state. I was offered a series by John Carpenter after I did the movie Christine, and I would have been a leading man after that. I would have played a private investigator, and I was offered a great deal. I would be involved in the direction, casting, everything, and whatever. It was whatever an actor wants, and I didn't take it. I took speech training. I took a few voice lessons in college. You get older. In the end, you end up accepting everything in your life: suffering, horror, love, loss, hate, all of it. I'd never seen a Western that was really truthful. Most are just morality plays, good guys and bad guys, and the good guys always win, whereas in reality, most of the sheriffs were as bad as the gangsters they were after. I play myself all the time, on camera and off. What else can I do? Pretty in Pink was a huge hit for me. Nothing is important. Paris, Texas is the first film that I've totally cared about, the first movie I totally wanted to do, and after 27 years that I considered my prison term. I sing and play guitar and harmonica. I've been doing it for a long time. I've been blessed. I've worked with a lot of good people. Everything changes every day. Heisenberg, Max Planck, and Einstein, they all agreed that science could not solve the mystery of the universe. I would have preferred to blossom earlier in life. I change every day. I'm still changing. Study up on the Eastern religions. They're the only ones that are realistic. There's no answer. C. I'm tired of playing people who are complete washouts and bums. I don't mind waiting for the good ones to come along. It's like age. It's never bothered me. I'd even forgot my birthday. Many times I've wondered if I should tell my real age, but now I think it's an honor to be doing what I'm doing now at my age. I do all the classics like Dylan, Christopherson, Jimmy Reed, Mexican mariachi songs, some jazz songs from the 30s. Cole Porter's Begin the Big Wine, that's one of my favorites. I like to do nothing. I'm just dealing with what's happening, with what is. Joy, happiness, good, bad, all those terms are meaningless to me. I can't stress too much how much Ry Cooder was an influence on me. Having one of the most respected musicians around like my singing really gave me the confidence to do it. I grew up Southern Baptist, in the Bible Belt. People know you as an actor, and labels are so comfortable for people. That syndrome is always hard to get past. The band I've played with for 10 or 12 years now, we've been all over, but we mostly play in LA. The most terrifying thing for most everybody in the whole Western world is to take responsibility for your own life and to experience real freedom. I know little stories that happen to people around me, and I can repeat that in a way it has some color. I think every actor wants to play those big parts. In the very first play I ever did, I remember understanding all the characters in it. I'd always felt I could play anyone. California is full of Mexican culture and Mexican music. I think I'm blessed with a pretty tough psyche. I don't believe in singing lessons. You can sing or you can't. I was in a movie called Twister, and in it, I had to hit a golf ball off of a roof with a driving wood. The guy who owned the place where we shot showed me how to do it, and I hit the ball about 150 yards. I've worked with some of the best of them, not just directors like Sam Peckinpah and David Lynch, but writers like Sam Shepard and singers like Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, and Chris Christopherson. Casting is a convoluted kind of trip. No one likes to be tight, even if you're a cab driver or whatever you do. My feeling or philosophy is closer to Taoism and Zen Buddhism, cause it's the most practical. I've never been ambitious about recording. I am not into any religions. I'd have been mostly influenced by Eastern religions, Taoism, the essence of Hinduism and Buddhism, but my belief is not having any beliefs. If I never did another film after Paris, Texas, I'd be happy. Speech lessons probably did more for my singing voice. They teach you breathing, resonance. My father and mother were not that compatible. I don't think they had a good wedding night, and I was the product of that. We weren't close. My sister tells me I began singing before I could even talk. My first performance was of a song called My Blue Heaven, which I began singing when I was a year and a half. I'm very fortunate. I don't think anyone should have a job that they don't really enjoy. I don't recall what the first record I bought was, but I definitely remember hearing Creedence's Born on the Bayou and going out and buying it. The guitar and drums in that band were really good. I loved the words to the title track, and Fogerty's voice sounded just great.